But if you're just talking about playing spaces, to improvise a football match, fewer than ever.
And if you want to play, then you got to beware somebody will come and complain, too much noise, too much things, stop playing.
Yep. Call police.
Yeah, call police.
Welcome to part 2 of Yahoo Footballing Weekly with me, Yahoo columnist Neil Humphreys.
And me, Yahoo editor Chia Keong, and back with us, Soh Rui Yong.
Hello, good to be back.
National runner and record breaker. Just remind our viewers again, you've got a race coming up.
Coming up on Saturday, the Pocari Sweat 2.4 kilometers National Championship is the first edition of the 2.4 kilometer National Championship. So big thank you to Singapore Athletics for sanctioning this race and making it official. Yeah,
back from UK just for this race. No, actually not. But
I came back for the Army Half Marathon
and
this race, and I just got engaged. So the ROM is coming up.
Fantastic. So, congratulations.
Milestones.
As if you couldn't punish yourself enough. No, I'm kidding. Congratulations. It's a great news. And speaking of great news, we have another fantastic special offer.
Fantastic
segue from StarHub, our sponsor.
Okay, so now got a new deal. So, StarHub obviously does all the telco stuff. He got this ultra speed bundle offer. $69.30. You get Premier Plus, which is the Premier League package, for 2 years, 24 months. You get your Disney Plus and View Premium channels for 12 months. You get Sports Plus channels for 3 months, all on them, all together, $69.30. Yeah. And that will also include the most advanced 10 Gbps Wi-Fi 6 router.
Now, when you showed me this special offer, and no one is paying me to say this, even though StarHub is our sponsor, and we're grateful to have them, it genuinely annoyed me, right? Because I paid double for the same stuff. Yeah. And there's nothing I can do about it because I'm locked into a contract. But if you're not locked into a contract,
please go ahead.
This is an absolute bargain. This is an absolute bargain. Great stuff. Right. All right. As always, thank you for the comments. All things local football in part 2. The comments every week.
Thank you very much.
All of our platforms. Yeah. We love them. Wouldn't have a show without you. So thank you. What have we got this week?
Yep. So we got a one from Lingesh Kumar. This guy always sends us good comments. He says, "Nice episode, guys." Hey,
say that part again.
Nice episode, guys.
Thank you.
He said, "Nice take on the Saudis transfers issues and how sports in its entirety can be influenced by money. Maybe it's about time to reconsider how we idolize sports people and whether they have a say in social issues. It appears now, in my own view, given the right amount of money, Cristiano Ronaldo might endorse Coca-Cola."
Yeah.
He used to, 2009.
Yeah, but after a while, he said there was a scenario where
now it says don't drink cold, drink water, right?
Yeah, agua.
I'll give my 10 cents worth in a minute, but this age-old debate, you're the best person to talk about this. Are sports stars social media influencers, or are they role models? Should they be role models?
I think being a role model helps with the marketing of the athlete. So it's in every athlete's best interest to be a role model to as many people as possible. But at the same time, athletes come in all shapes and sizes, with all kinds of different personalities. And I think very often, if you are being something that you're not, people can see through it. It might take some time, but people can see through it. But that's why athletes hire PR agencies, right, to help manage these issues. So
sometimes PR agencies are also dodgy, but that's another issue altogether.
Yeah. Because they end up creating a fake persona that's not authentic.
And you were talking about people. The thing people will see through if you are not true is the recent thing about Liverpool's former Liverpool captain Jordan Henderson.
Yes,
he just came out for an interview after he moved to Saudi League.
Yeah.
So that and then he was like talking about why he's moving there, and then there was a controversy about the LGBTQ.
Yes.
Which has been supporting it, very very open supporter of it, and then now you're moving to Saudi, which.
Yeah, then suddenly you're not a role model anymore.
Suddenly there's all these contradictions with what you were before.
Yes.
And he's desperately trying to defend himself. Say, it's not about money. I'm going there as a person who supports them so that I hope I can engineer a change. Like, really?
Yeah.
Then we're saying, so why don't you wear the
rainbow
reporter,
armband?
The journalist was quite good. He said, so why don't you wear the rainbow armband while you're playing? And he says, I don't want to disrespect the culture of the Saudi, the Saudi,
Don't
which is
impose on their culture.
yeah,
fair enough.
but that's how you engineer change if that is what you said you want to do, right? So it was like so.
I guess
Yeah.
this is delving into the realm of politics, and it's never quite so simple.
Correct.
Because I mean, sometimes to engineer change, I mean, they will talk about you can either clash or you change from within, and then clashing in the sense that he might lose his contract. Then they kick you out of Saudi Arabia. You're not going to engineer any change anymore. So at least 1 foot in. So I mean, I can see the rationale behind that. I mean, I think you said I would be a great example for this, but you can't engineer change if you're kicked out of the system to start. And I think that being a role model comes in many shapes and forms. In like you said, in some cultures, standing up for social issues. Let's say right now, an athlete who stands up for LGBT rights might be a role model or considered a role model in many parts of the UK or in the US. But in Singapore, here, I get in trouble for speaking up in support of LGBT.
You just get in trouble for speaking.
So, and then never mind like Saudi Arabia or even our neighboring countries, which are a bit more religious. So it can be it's certainly a different strokes for different people.
But more broadly, Ray Yong, this idea that, do you actually agree that athletes are role models? Because some people don't. Some people say, just because I happen to be good at this particular thing. I, for years, used to have this thing about Tiger Woods. I used to obsess about Tiger Woods and say, the man has such a platform to speak out about the racism in golf. And, for the longest time, only whites only in the clubs and no women. And he used to not sit on the fence, but I wanted him to be another Muhammad Ali. And everyone was like, he's just a golfer. He doesn't have to be a spokesperson just because he's in the public eye. What is your thought on that?
Well, like I said, because different people have different impressions of what a role model should be. So like the very same person, like let's say Tiger Woods, just focusing on golf, to many people, he is a role model.
That makes it, I agree, I agree with that.
To yourself,
like Serena Williams. And,
exactly. To yourself, maybe he's not a role model because he's not using his platform in the right manner. Similarly, I think I've heard both sides of the coin, generally, pro-establishment people have told me that to be a good role model, just keep quiet, don't comment on politics, don't comment on social issues, just focus on your sport. But on the other side of the coin, I have more of the everyday person saying, if we really look up to what you're doing, using your platform to speak up for some of these minority, it could be minority races, it could be minority groups. I mean, like LGBT is a great example. Are athletes role models? Very often, athletes are role models to certain sectors, but not all. Never all. Yeah.
But I will also say yes. It all depends on them. But if they really want to be a role model, at least read up and be aware, be more self-aware. Jordan Henderson, for all the things he did for Liverpool, my club, and I appreciate him. He comes across as tone deaf and vacuous in that interview. Like he doesn't really know what is at stake. Even when he says he wants to be a advocate and this and that, it comes across as
there have been examples of journalists being murdered and dissidents being tortured.
And frankly speaking, it would be better if he had just kept quiet.
Frankly speaking, and this is not to put down footballers, but athletes from football are very different from athletes from, let's say, swimming or running.
That's the other issue. Yeah.
Exactly. Like footballers, very often they forego further education.
No, that's a fact. You're not stereotyping, particularly in the UK. Most kids, because of the pressure of the youth academies, they have to prioritize football. They don't even do A-levels, let alone university. I mean, statistically, that is true.
Yeah, and football pays you enough that you can do that. But you can't expect, not to say that education is a causation of like someone who is socially aware and able to speak up better and front these issues, but there is a correlation between the level of education you have and your ability to present to navigate like complex situations such as this. And Jordan Henderson, God bless his soul, is a fantastic leader on the field in the dressing room, but he's not a politician. He's not very well equipped to handle these things.
Yeah.
So putting him on the spot for things like that.
It was a
it's-
cringe-worthy interview.
Yeah, it's a nightmare for him.
But just to add to that, I think the only issue I have with that is the slight hypocrisy of athletes. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
If you're playing in the Saudi Pro League, it's because they want you to act as ambassadors
money.
for their country, right?
Yeah.
That is for
Neymar,
the
Ronaldo, Henderson, others, they are literally paid for their social media posts.
Yeah.
So you are role models. Hey, look at me outside the Saudi zoo or the Saudi aquarium or whatever it might. You are literally being a role model.
Are you a role model or an influencer though? Because there are tons of influencers in Singapore.
Either or.
They are
Either
not
or.
role models. Yeah.
No, I agree. All right, let's come back to
Not
that.
role
No,
models.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
You
You are
put that in the clip.
you are influencers. Yes, I agree. That's the point. You are influencing people. You are
Yeah.
being paid to influence people. So you can't have it both ways. You say, "Oh, I'm not a role model when I talk about LGBT or I talk about." Well, if you want to influence them to go to the Saudi aquarium,
Yeah.
then you're also going to influence them if you
Maybe.
don't support minority groups and so on. You can't have it both ways.
So you're influencing people, but you see, an influencer or an activist is not necessarily a role model. A role model, and I mean, a role model is like, this is the prime example of what you want your kids to grow up as. I mean, that's the simple way to picture what a role model is, right? But
Well, I mean, look at our podcast. On our panel, our role model is Jay. Director, he just does the job, no fuss, gets it done. But what do you think? Are athletes role models or influencers or hypocrites? Send all your comments too.
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
Now, one of my next comments might be one of my favorites from Liam Keong.
Great. So we talk about how our facilities and our Singapore environment might not be very good to produce talents. So his comment is, it all starts from unplanned play. We used to have playgrounds that are filled with sand and are made of metallic scaffoldings. Those who made it to the top are usually the athletic and daring ones who aren't afraid of heights. These are gone. We used to have open spaces to play whatever we wanted. Spaces are shrinking. Access to facilities are getting commercialized. And these are just creating more barriers for people to play whatever sports they are, including football.
Could not agree more.
Yeah.
Before you guys come in, I could not agree more with this comment. The ability to improvise a football match in Singapore is becoming harder than ever. When I came in 1996, I lived in Toa Payoh. I literally went across to a field with my friend and we just played a game. We went to Bishan Park on a Sunday morning. We'd either play our own game or we'd join into an existing game.
Now you have
there
to
were
go through
places
active.
all over you could have done this in the 90s.
Yeah, now
right?
you have to go through Active SG to book a court,
Correct.
book a field.
cost money.
Cost money. And the idea back in the 90s of paying to play was unheard of. Find a field, make up some goalposts, you play, right? I know I sound like an old uncle from the kampong, but this was only the 90s we're talking about, the late 90s. Now, as you say, just recently, my daughter wanted to play. I went to Pongal Park. You can't. There's not enough space. It's a beautiful green space, but it's full of trees and saplings. I love M Parks. I love the 1 million trees campaign. It's a completely different issue. But if you're just talking about playing spaces, to improvise
it's so
a football
difficult.
match, fewer than ever.
And if you want to play, then you got to beware. Somebody will come and complain. Too much noise, too much things
Yeah.
for playing.
Yep. Call police.
Yeah, call police.
I used to play a lot of football actually. I think that's even though I didn't eventually end up a footballer, but that was when I did a lot of my running. Running after the ball, do your step overs. There's a bit of agility training. Like unknowingly, you're getting your steps in. So I mean, there's a theory that you do 10,000 hours of an activity and you become really good at it.
Yep.
And if your hours of physical activity start when you're really young, it adds up. And by the time you want to take it seriously in your 20s, you actually have that base behind you, and you didn't come off the couch and try to be an athlete.
100%. I would just like to know, where can you just set up and play in Singapore for free? If anybody knows, genuinely, let us know because we can share that information on next week's show. All right, moving on. The national team, they're playing a couple of games coming up at the Bishan Stadium. They're playing Tajikistan on the 8th of September,
And
Chinese
Chinese
Taipei on the 12th of September. Get along to Bishan Stadium. Someone's not happy with our national team selections.
Yeah, Mr. Akera 4375 just said the national team call-up is a prime example of a closed system within the football fraternity. How do you call up Shadan Sulaiman, who has been injured the whole season, and players like Adam Swandi and Amirul Adli, who have been subpar, his opinion, but leave out the likes of Ho Wai Lun and Darren Tay, who have been outstanding?
I'm guessing this guy's a Balestier supporter.
Yes,
they're both Balestier players.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the last time I was on this show, there was a lot of backlash when I talked about the ratio of Malay players to Chinese players, right? And anyway, a lot of people took the comments out of context, but that's besides the point. This comment is actually quite interesting because all the players that seem to have been selected, according to this guy's opinion at least, they're all Malay, and the players who supposedly should get selected but not selected are
two Chinese guys,
Chinese
yeah.
players.
Yeah, Darren and
if-
Wei Lun.
Yeah, but it's not the first time I've heard of these like close selection. I mean, it's a bit risky now, but talking about this because we don't want to accuse like any of the coaches of like racial bias or anything like
Which
that.
we're not.
Which we're not.
We're definitely
So
not.
Definitely not. But I've spoken to players within the system. Like Malay players, Chinese players. Their consensus seems to be that it's a bit. I mean, as a Chinese player or as a Chinese player, the more hoops you have to jump through, the more difficulties that you face, like breaking into the national
Kind
team.
of.
And one of it is that the racial perception that Chinese players don't make it, or they're not as good.
Yeah. I will have a bit of sympathy. I think Ho Wai Lun and Darren, they do play very well together with Glenn Quay and Joe Chew from Tampines. They've been playing very well all season in the Singapore Premier League.
But Wei Lun's had shocking injuries, right? I did some reading.
Yeah,
he had
there's
the
some
ankle injury,
injuries.
then he had the
Yeah, there's some
ACL. He was out
injuries.
for more than a year.
But you can argue Shadan also had some injury, terrible
yeah,
injuries.
fair point.
Sometimes I do understand coaches. Sometimes they want to go with familiarity. They really say, okay, I've seen him play for. I know he executes my instructions better when he was fit. So once now he's relatively fit, I want him back again. There are some coaches who feel that, Gareth Southgate, he will always pick. You will always
Harry
pick
Maguire.
Harry Maguire.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why you keep on bringing Harry Maguire? But maybe Harry Maguire really executes his instructions well. It's easier to manage as a national team coach. Sometimes
Maybe he's a good role model.
yeah, maybe it's a good role model.
He has very good posts on Instagram.
Yeah, so there are a lot of factors, and I do feel that sometimes there's always this national call-out word that generate a lot of debate on why this player and why that player is not called up. But
Which is always the case for football because it's not as objective as, let's say, track and field, where, if you run 10.9 seconds,
Yeah, you
you're
meet that
faster
one.
than someone that who's running 11.1 seconds for 100 meters. But for football, team dynamic, even like when Torres wasn't playing well at Chelsea, he kept getting picked. Why?
Yeah.
Because Roman Abramovich, he was the favorite player for the owner. So
But
the
on this
Panthers had
one,
to pick him.
I know we've talked about race before, and it is a pertinent issue. But this one, I am a little bit reluctant to focus on race because I think you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you are picked, if you're Gabriel Kwak, then you have another side saying he's only been picked because he's Chinese to have the token Chinese player in the team. And then you don't pick the Chinese, and the other side go, see, they never pick the Chinese. They never pick the Chinese.
Really can't win. You can't win this. You just have to let them play the game, and if they play and they win, you keep quiet.
Yeah.
If they play and they lose, then you say, you see.
All the excuses.
But as always, let us know nicely. Let us know nicely, and we'll share your comments next week. Okay, speaking of contentious issues in local sport, the FAS presidential election.
This one really gets me a bit worked up.
When is that coming up?
So it's coming out on 23rd of September.
Are you going to cover it?
I probably will.
Are you going to run for it?
I didn't even know it was.
So in any case, he wouldn't have the chance. So what it is that the closing date for the submission for the candidacy of the FAS president has already happened. It's already deadline already. And during that deadline, only one candidate has put in his name, and that is the current acting president, Bernard Tan.
Okay.
So no one else put in their name on the hat. And this is one thing, everybody has been complaining about the state of Singapore football for the longest time since our podcast started. They have been complaining.
Yes.
And
yes.
Bernard, okay, for all things I sort of don't really find his way. He's not exactly my cup of tea. I do disagree with him on certain things, but at least he put his name.
Yes.
He put his everything. He does everything to keep.
He put his name
Yeah,
up.
he
puts his name in the hat.
Correct.
Yeah.
He puts his name in the hat. He comes out to.
He gets
to
in the
lead,
ring,
to
as Lee Kuan Yew used to say. Get in
he
the ring or
started
shut
the
up.
Unleash the
Yeah.
Raw project. Unleash the Raw project. Yeah, everything. So fair play to him, even though we don't agree on some parts. But where are the others? You keep complaining and you don't put in your name.
Could not agree more.
Yeah, but
100% I agree with that.
I mean, I don't know how much of it is no one else wants to do it, and how much of is there any like in Singapore presidential elections? It's very hard to qualify as a candidate.
Hey, it's not Tarman.
it's
It's not that presidential election. It's not that hard.
I mean,
Yeah,
I know.
I agree.
But are there any criteria
Certainly,
that
you must
meet?
have worked in the football fraternity for
Okay.
a few years, and then you must have sort of run a club before. I think there were some criteria if I couldn't remember offhand.
But does it cut away a lot of people?
That does,
Okay.
but that also doesn't leave out a lot of others. I mean, last time, and the thing is that even in the Lim Kia Tong times when he was the late Lim Kia Tong, he was also returned unopposed for the second term. It's only like maybe in the mid 2010s when the Bill Ng came out to compete with Lim Kia Tong for the presidency. That was the one thing I remember that happened. And subsequently, it's always uncontested.
Yeah.
And just people comes and picks up. So
It's quite common though in national sports associations, like, and it's never good for the sport when it's an uncontested election because it just looks like no one cares.
I do recall
No one cares.
Singapore athletics do have a lot of contests before. I think
Singapore Athletics, every year we have a contest, but back in the day of Loh Ning Kok's era, because I mean everyone he ruled with an iron fist, people were scared of him. So basically, if you ran against him at the election and you didn't win, you basically have no future in athletics. You make life
but still
really
there are
difficult,
people like
from what I understand.
Pereira, like Tang Wen Fei.
Pereira has run 4 times and lost 4 times.
Yeah.
So but there have been elections. So for the biggest sport in Singapore, football, to not have a contested election is a bit odd.
But that's where I agree with your point. I think there's such hypocrisy here because, as you know, on this podcast, we get all the armchair keyboard warriors, and that's great. Everybody's got something to say every time they get whacked 7-0 or the SEA Games or whatever. Then they go quiet and they go back to the EPL, right?
Yeah.
But when the moment comes, as you said, to throw your hat in the ring,
where are they?
everyone disappears.
Everybody.
And I wonder if it's because deep down we know it's a poison chalice. They know. Now, for your point about Bernard, for all the criticism, he's put his hat in the ring, right? And I think all these people know, and you know who I'm talking about, they play their political games, but deep down they know that Singapore and Singapore football is on 2 different paths, right? Look in the last couple of years, Farrer Park, gone for redevelopment. Kranji Turf Club, gone for redevelopment. The worst one of all, the grandstand at Bukit Timah, gone for redevelopment. We are moving in different directions. There is not enough of our population who cares enough about Singapore football. And those people are voters, and people know this. So they'll shout on social media and they'll make a name for themselves, but deep down, they won't step up because they know that it is a poison chalice. Singapore football is just not a priority for Singaporeans, most Singaporeans. Would that be fair?
I think that's fair.
Fair. I think
It's
that's
not a priority. I mean, people are quite apathetic.
So they're quite happy just to wag every time the SEA Games happens. But when it's like, do you want to try and save it? I don't know about that. It's beyond saving. It's like,
But was it the case, back in Fandi Ahmad's time when he was playing, were these elections contested? Or was it also always walkover?
How old do you think we are?
I'm not that old, remember, but
historians, right?
But I did
don't
say
think you
that
guys
Lim
are
Kia Tong did there was an election with Bill Ng that time, the mid 2010s.
That was an ugly election.
That was an ugly election.
Police were involved, and people called police to arrest their opponent.
Eventually,
for
after there was a separate issue, but Bill Ng was eventually arrested.
It's a separate issue, but for it to happen just before the elections,
that was.
Is it really a separate issue? It's one of those questions that
he always makes it political, whatever we talk about. What do you think about the FAS presidential elections? Send all of your comments to
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on TikTok, on Twitter, and Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
Beautiful. And let's finish as always on a positive story. This is becoming the Danelle Tan show. And why not? Tell us her latest.
Hat-trick on her debut.
Hat-trick on her debut. This is the young girl playing in Germany, for Borussia Dortmund.
Danelle.
So
fantastic.
Borussia Dortmund. So the context is, isn't the top level of German football.
To me, that's nitpicking.
Okay, that's a bit nitpicking. It's the fifth tier, but Dortmund are just starting their women's team, so they have to start from the bottom. And obviously, they have enough resources. They got a very, very strong team compared to that division.
Yeah.
So they're trashing their opponents like 13-0 on that match. But Danelle all full credit to her. Hat trick. I think he had quite a few assists and player of the game.
Brilliant.
So brilliant. Great start.
Brilliant.
So that's one.
Yep.
Good story. The second good story is during the Lion City Cup. It's an under 15 tournament for Singapore, for the region. So they restarted it again after 7 years. So the Singapore under 15, there's a Singapore under 15 team, Selangor, Borneo, and I think there was BG Patum, the Thai club side. So Singapore came in second, lost to BG Patum on penalties in the thing. But they beat Selangor 3-1 in the opening game before advancing to the final. And during these two matches, Nathan Mao, you remember him?
Very well.
That time Lion City made the youngest player to debut on the Singapore Premier
15,
League.
right?
15 years old.
Yeah.
Still 15. He looks like he's 18.
Yeah.
Big size. And he scored 3 goals.
Fantastic.
3 goals in 2 games. All 3 goals are very well taken. And I think, well, here we go. We got a sort of like a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Here we go. So,
If you're good enough, you're old enough.
correct. So good. Danelle and Nathan are all very good stories. But the thing is, deep down inside, I also feel that, yes, we keep on talking about young players, and then, do we really develop them properly enough, well enough in Singapore? There's always like, I go back to the Youth Olympics team in 2010. Everybody said that team is great. Came in third in the Youth Olympics, but very quickly all were dispersed within a couple of years, and none of them eventually became top footballers. And I also worry about now we keep on saying Nathan Mao, we always say Danelle Tan, but and whether we're gonna give them a chance to properly develop, whether Singapore is a proper place for them to develop their talents, that's always an issue.
How should we handle young emerging talent in Singapore in terms of media coverage, spotlight?
Oh, you asked them to get out. I think that's the number one thing. I mean, that's what Danelle did.
Yeah.
So I mean, Singapore is quite small. So I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a personal connection with both these players.
Oh.
So Danelle, I first saw her making the news, and then one day she popped out on Instagram, and I noticed that she had been following me for like maybe a year or so, and then I was like, you connected? Hey, sorry, I just saw this. I saw some of your highlights. You're a really good player. I would love to come and see you play one day, because she was in London at the point of time.
Yeah, correct.
So, but then we chatted a bit. I said before I could go and watch her, she signed with Dortmund. I was like, okay, that's a way bigger journey that she was embarking on. So that was very exciting. There's this one goal. I'll send you the video of it. But it reminded me of a goal that Fernando Torres scored against Chelsea back in 2009, 2008.
Yeah.
So that very exciting player to watch. And Nathan, I used to run with his aunt.
Oh wow!
Yeah, back in Raffles. Zeslyn Mao, who is now I think she was.
That's his aunt. Okay.
You know Zeslyn Mao?
I heard the name before.
Okay, yeah, Zeslyn Mao, squash player.
Yeah,
back in the day, we used to go and squash players do a bit of running, so we used to jog around. And she's a really good student. So now she graduated from like Harvard Law School with a master's like last year or this year or something like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So maybe.
So how do they handle the media?
I don't know. I think because they're still quite young, they might be quite protected.
Yeah, I think they are.
Especially.
But Danelle is. I think she
I know her father a little bit, and he's fantastic. The way he's almost like a pseudo manager agent.
Yeah, you
He's
need the
great.
proper people around.
You need a network.
Yeah.
Well, you need that, because which parent in Singapore is going to allow your kid to skip O levels, A levels,
And skip a US scholarship. She was offered a US scholarship that she put to one side for this.
and that would have given her, a safe path, right? Like, even if you don't make it in football, you have
got
a
a
degree,
fallback.
and then you have a fallback plan. But this is really going all into professional football, and like 99.9% of Singapore parents wouldn't really take that.
Yeah, and Nathan hasn't served NS yet, so that's an issue. Yeah.
The journey is going to be more difficult for Nathan, 100%, because I mean, like it or not, people always, people from the establishment always say don't use NS as an excuse. Sorry, NS kills the athletes. This one is, you cannot debate.
We got so far in the podcast
Without
really-
controversy.
you can't
without
really debate
NS, and here he goes.
we're not saying that
I'm
don't
kidding.
do NS.
I'm kidding. Yeah, of course, I'm kidding.
We don't say don't do NS. I mean, there are merits to NS, but whether or not there can be allowances made for athletes, if the answer is no, then we're always going to have, even Joseph Schooling, our best athlete of all time across all sports, went to NS and he had trouble continuing.
Yeah, I mean,
a-
it's interesting. I wish them well, handling the media, handling the spotlight, especially Danelle's case. But look, it's not easy. I'll give a personal example. When I was 14, my name was in lights. You'll love this story, right? So I played for this local team when I was 14. We lost 8-1. But it was the first time my name ever appeared in a newspaper because
Nice.
they had a little
Always
thing,
good. Always good.
right? Yeah, but we lost 8-1. And at the end it said,
Neil Humphreys.
and Neil Humphreys scored the one goal for the other team.
That's even better.
It changed my life, Danelle Tan. It changed my life. You have to manage
That's
the
how you
fame.
got your
You
gig
have
here,
to
man.
manage the fame.
That's how you got a gig here. I won't tell you.
Right? Right. So there's an epilogue. I cut it out. It was literally this big. And I framed it on a little piece of hardback paper.
Awesome.
I had it on the wall beside my bed when I was going to sleep. My dog ate it. He jumped up on the wall and bit it. This is what fame does. Fame destroys. But I'm sure Danelle Tan and Nathan Mao will handle it a lot better than I. But as always, keep your comments coming one more time too.
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
And to our wonderful loyal viewers, one more time for StarHub, special offer.
Oh, Ultra Speed Bundle. $69.30. You get Premium Plus for 2 years. You get Disney and View Premium for 12 months. You get Sports Plus channels for 3 months, all on a most advanced 10 Gbps Wi-Fi router.
Brilliant. And speaking of, right, watch this segue. You ready for this segue?
okay.
You ready for the segue? Speaking of ultra speed, he is running this weekend. Tell him where you're running.
What a segue.
I'm running at Keong Practice Track, 8:30 p.m. on Saturday. It's the Pocari Sweat 2.4 kilometers
Yeah.
national championship.
Go down and have a look.
Brilliant. Get down there,
Try and
support
run
our
some.
local stars, support our local sports. And thank you as always for supporting this podcast. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Take care. Stay safe.